Hey guys, welcome back. We're back outside today. It's a little bit of an overcast, gloomy day out, but it's the end of September, so it's time for the September garden tour. If you guys are new here, my name is Alyssa. Hello. And I garden in New York, Zone 7B, and my focus is on trying to increase the number of native plants in my garden to better help the environment and the wildlife while making my garden a more beautiful and enjoyable place for me and my family. So let's get started here in the front yard. So we're here in the front yard, and this is a north facing yard. Let me give you a little bit of an overview so you can see generally what we're working with. I have 3 garden beds on this side of the front yard. So if we start over here, some of the major things that we have on this side are these pink buddleia, which, guys, I don't think I took a picture and I regret that. The last garden tour, they were looking a little bit spent, but in between the August garden tour and now, they had another flush of blooms and were so pretty. So really lovely having these. They're not the best for the pollinators here because they are not a native plant, but the pollinators do enjoy them. Actually, there was a bee on here just, oh, I think he's still on there. Yep. Let's see if I can get you guys to see. There is a little bee on here, so they will come visit this plant. It's just not a favorite compared to some of the other plants, but I really like the pink blooms that it gives. It gives some nice height, and they're doing pretty well here in the front yard. We also had some phlox here, which, as you can see, again, it's September, so the phlox are no longer in bloom. But this year, I don't know if I just paid more attention this year or what, but the phlox smell so good, and I will definitely be increasing the number of phlox in my garden because of that. As we move along more to the foundation plants, we have the Japanese maple, which is just looking great. It has less of the burgundy color now as the season is starting to wane, but this plant is so funny to me. I feel like it looks a little bit like Cousin It. What do you guys think? Nice and shaggy. What's doing really well on this garden bed are the 2 red twig dogwoods that I planted this spring. Let me take a step back here so you guys can get a closer look. I love the variegation on these leaves, and they're doing better up here than I thought they would, honestly. So I'm really happy about that. And you can see some of the wood that's turning red. And part of the reason I wanted these plants here was for some winter interest, hoping that I'd have these nice red twigs back here that would be a nice red accent in the winter months when pretty much nothing is blooming. That's also why I have this red blooming camellia back here, which I also planted this past spring, and she is looking great. You guys can see that she's budding up nicely, and look at these beautiful green waxy leaves. For those of you that saw the video when I first put this guy in, she was looking crispy and was not doing so hot, but gave her some time and she is springing back, and I think this is going to be a beautiful accent. Nice, again, red accent in the winter when not much else is going on in the garden. The other thing that has been really nice in the garden as we go into fall is the sedum. Now you can see the nice, fluffy, kind of dark pink, leaning towards red, like a nice deep pink. And there's not many pollinators on it right now, but I'm telling you guys, I didn't realize, and again, maybe it's because I wasn't always paying enough attention, how much the pollinators really like the sedum. Now, you can also see that the sedum's flopped over in the center, and I think the reason for that is the soil is too rich for the sedum. I'm always focusing on enriching my soil to better help the plants, but sedum is one of those plants that actually kind of like crummy soil. They do well in soil that isn't necessarily very nutrient rich. So when that happens, it tends to flop over in the center. It's also possible that I might need to divide this sedum some more, but I think it's because the soil is too enriched. I'm okay with that though. It might look a little bit better if they were sticking up some more, but I want a nice enriched soil full of organic matter. So I haven't added anything in this garden bed this year, but like I said, I want a nice, rich soil filled with organic matter because that's going to be the healthiest thing for the soil and for the majority of the plants that I have. Now, the newest garden bed is the soft landing garden bed under the oak tree. And I am just loving how this garden bed is coming together, how it's growing in and filling in. And I cannot wait to see what it looks like next year. So things that are really shining in this garden bed so far is the great blue lobelia. This is such a pretty purple, although I guess maybe you could say blue. I guess this is a purple that kind of leans blue, but I love that. We have some poppies here. I had spread a wild seed mix, so that's where the poppies came from. The yarrow, obviously not in bloom anymore, but you can see how much the foliage has spread and how healthy it looks. So I am just really happy with how this garden bed is coming together. In one of my most recent videos, which I think you guys would have seen already, I added these blue stem grasses and some creeping phlox, which will add some nice early spring color and scent. And I just really love how the creeping phlox looks in early spring. Practically nothing else is blooming. And when I'm walking around the neighborhood, I see these it just looks like a carpet of sparkling jewel-like purple. And I finally realized this year that it's phlox, creeping phlox. So yeah, got some of those. Really excited. The other thing that we planted in the garden bed recently is some wild ginger, which I'm realizing now, I think I planted 4 of them and they spread by rhizomes, which you can kind of see. I know it looks like sticks, but this is actually the wild ginger. Almost all of the foliage dies back every time I plant the wild ginger. Do you guys see? I had planted one by itself because that's what they had at my local garden center, and then I purchased 3 more because I thought maybe that one was dead. But the same thing happened to 2 out of the 3 new ones where the foliage died back practically immediately. But when I'm looking at them, I think the rhizomes are still alive, so I expect these will come back in the spring and look a lot better. Maybe they just don't do well transplanting. I'm not really sure. Now, if we cross over to the other side of the driveway, we have another front yard garden bed which recently underwent an expansion. And to give you an idea, if you haven't seen the videos, where this hedge of purple heather stopped, that's where the garden bed pretty much stopped because I had hedged it with heather on both sides. But I decided to make it bigger. And in my insanity, I dug up and moved the boxwoods back. Honestly, these boxwoods moved only a few inches. I don't think you guys are going to have seen this video by the time the garden tour comes out, but I'm working on it. This was insanity, let me tell you. Digging can be so hard, and I was running into it actually wasn't too bad initially, but then I started running into a bunch of tree roots and it was a mess, guys, let me tell you. And again, I think most people are going to think I'm insane because I only moved them a few inches, but I actually think it was worth it. I think they look better, and if they survive the transplant, fingers crossed, I'll be very happy with it. But it was definitely a lot of hard work and was definitely a touch of insanity. So again, you can see on this side that the garden bed ended here because that's where this purple heather hedge ended. So I picked up a good amount of space. I'm going to be putting some more daffodils and maybe some more annuals in this garden bed. I don't know if I'm going to have much more perennials because it's not a huge garden bed, but it does need a little bit more color is what I felt this year, but maybe I'll focus on more annuals. We'll see. There's another camellia in this garden bed that, again, you can see is budding up quite nicely. This one's been in the garden for about 2 years now. Makes these lovely pink blooms at the end of winter, early spring, getting us some nice color. Now, I think I inadvertently skipped over this garden bed in the last garden tour, and so I did not talk about something that has me so sad, is my hydrangea. So this is a little lime punch hydrangea, and guys, look how crispy this is. Oh my God, I am so sad. This was so tragic. Now, I'm not 100% sure what happened here. It is possible that when we had that big heat wave that everybody went through, that it got really toasted. Also, I don't think it's getting too much sun in this spot. Like I said, the front yard is north facing, so it's not a whole lot of sun. And I don't think it did this last year. Actually, I'm pretty sure it did not do this last year. But it's possible the heat wave got it. But what I truly think happened is for a couple of weeks, I didn't realize the sprinkler system was not working. And so I think the sprinkler system not working in combination with the heat wave is, I think, what got this so toasty. But it's not dead. You know, you guys can see that the leaves are still fine. There's some, look at these poor little pink, like they tried to get their color. I'm so sad that we missed out on those nice, beautiful, white, fluffy blooms. Oh, look at this. But the plant itself is alive, and, you know, there's always next year, I guess. Then I have this David Austin rose here, whose name I continuously cannot remember. Apricot? Flowering apricot? Something? Let's take a sniff. Ugh, smells so good. Giving us a last couple of little blooms right at the end of summer. So happy about that. And then other new things in this garden bed that looking super crispy, but they'll be fine for next year, is some lance leaf coreopsis. They're a native cultivar, which is why I put them in this garden bed. I put a few cone flowers in as well. And what's actually been nice, which I don't think, oh man, none of them are in bloom right this second, but if I can, I'll insert a picture, is a few of the cosmos, I think, seeded themselves. I planted cosmos in this garden bed and they did fine, but most of them have died back, but I realized a bunch of them started growing again as the weather got a little bit cooler. They're more of a cool season flower. So they've been giving me, it's mostly been yellow ones, so we've been getting some cheerful yellow blooms, which has been very enjoyable here at the end of the season. Okay, let's keep going. Now looking at the side path going towards the backyard, like I said, it's pretty much fall. Actually, I think it is fall at this point. I think the autumnal equinox has happened already. So not many things in bloom, but the creeping lamium looks much better. It struggled a little bit this summer for some reason, but again, coming back with this nice silver green foliage, a few of the little purple blooms, but definitely one of my favorite ground covers. This David Austin Princess Anne rose, also giving us a last couple of blooms before the end of the season. This rose smells so good. I love it. Very happy with how this rose did this year. On this side, we have a whole bunch of hostas that just love this spot. I mean, they thrive here. I don't do anything here, but I think next year I'm going to have to divide these up, and I actually think I'm going to put them on the other side of the front lawn. You know, the hostas aren't a native plant, but they serve their purpose, and I like them. They're pretty nice. And there's some areas on the other side that get a good amount of shade, and I think I'm actually going to end up expanding that garden bed as well. And I think this needs to be thinned out anyway next year, and I think I might put some hostas on that side as well. the thunderclap flowering plum, which I'm gonna have to limb up this winter because it's all in the path. But it's a fairly young tree, so I was reluctant to do it this year, but it's time. Definitely going to limb her up this winter. Also have some more sedum over here, which also is flopped over, but again, I definitely did amend this soil a lot on this side. And my heuchera actually didn't do great this year. They definitely got really crispy when it got really hot, and again, probably because of the sprinkler system not working, but they popped back. So not their best year, but still looking great, and I love, love, love this color. All right, let's head to the backyard. Okay, so let's get a little overview of the back path. There's Aria. Definitely have a little bit of fall color going on here. If we turn around back this way, here's one of the crepe myrtles, which had a nice second flush. It looks like these blooms are a little bit smaller than the first one, but this crepe myrtle definitely did the best out of all of them this year. Well, I shouldn't say that. The shrub-like one did pretty well as well, but this one looks really, really good. But this one looks really, really good. And as we come down, we have some of the planters, Supertunia Vista Bubblegum, some begonias. I'm definitely going to be putting the Vista series in the ground next year, which is what they're meant for. And they perform really well. They just, I feel like they just don't play that nice with other things in planters. Now, if we come up here, we have some asters. That's what this yellow, well, white with the yellow center flower is. And I don't know if you guys can see them, but here's all of the bees, right? So I'm very happy that I have these back here, and they're doing exactly what I wanted. Is they're providing a pollen and nectar source at the end of the season. You know, we're going into fall, the insects are going to be hibernating soon, but there's a last nectar source, and I'm getting some nice cute blooms. These are kind of nice. They look a little wildflowery. I mean, let's be honest, this whole area right now is looking pretty wild. And I will say, and I think I've said before, this is one of the things that sometimes I believe people don't love about native plants. They look a little bit wild. And listen, it's your garden, it's your aesthetic. Do whatever you want with your garden. However, I just challenge us to think about what we perceive as beautiful and why we always want to enforce order onto everything. And I'm no different, guys. Let's be real. I'm a control freak, okay? But I kind of do like a little bit of a wild garden, and I'm still learning and growing. So there's things that, you know, I love, I don't love. Like, for example, this milkweed here, which again, oh God, the aphids are back. I didn't think they'd be back. But this is milkweed that I would not have put this milkweed here. I know it grew itself, probably because last year it did exactly what it's doing now. It's making seeds, and they're going to blow around and spread around the garden. But I'm okay with that. So I'm leaving these up instead of taking them down. They're flopping over back here. Like, this is not nice and neat and kempt. Totally understand that. And honestly, you don't have to let it get to this point. I'm just kind of letting nature do its thing. I don't know that I need to do the maintenance of cutting this down right now. I want more milkweed. Maybe I should let it spread itself. And there's other insects that will overwinter in the hollow stems. So you guys will see my fall cleanup is not going to be a lot of deadheading and taking stuff down or taking stuff out. I'm honestly going to leave a lot of stuff exactly where it is. But you don't have to do that. I'm just saying, think about more native plants and that they can be beautiful as well. And like I said, the wildlife is loving them. Like, if we turn to this side, these guys down here are goldenrod. And again, I don't know if you guys can quite see, but there's a whole bunch of bees on here. And I like the yellow color. Again, this is definitely a little wild, but I kind of like a wild garden. Everything eventually comes together in some harmony. The other planter, which has Super Tunia Vista Jazzberry, I love this color, and it definitely plays a little bit nicer than Bubblegum. But like I said, I'm pretty sure I'm going to put these more in the ground next year and do something else with the containers. Then I have this crabapple that I don't have a name for because I just got it at a big box store a few years ago. And I love the blooms in the spring. You can see it's making some berries, or I guess crab apples. But honestly, I don't think the birds like this. I feel as if I see them on the tree all season. But maybe they do eat them because I don't see them falling off and making a mess, but it's fine. I mostly have this here because I love the structure of this tree and I love the foliage, or I love the flowers come springtime. And down here, we still have some catmint, which looks great. This is another thing that I'm not going to cut back until early spring. I said in a previous video, though, that I don't cut these back after their first flush, mostly because I'm lazy, but I might try next year to cut them back and see how they do, because they did reflush this year, but maybe they'll reflush a little bit better if I do cut them back. So I might try that next year. Back on this side, again, more goldenrod, more random tomatoes that just keep growing themselves all over my garden, and more asters. Okay, we're gonna go through the rose arch, which is not in bloom. The lilacs aren't in bloom, but they'll be back next summer. All right, let's see the rest of the yard. As we go back to the main part of the backyard, let me give you guys a little bit of an overview. I know it looks like a mess. I might be revamping this entire area, but that's going to be a big project, so I've been a little hesitant, but that probably will happen. But let's see what we have so far. Now, these pink pansies grew themselves. They're not native here, but I guess they found little pockets of microclimates where they could come back, so they've grown themselves. My mom really loves these flowers, so I'm totally okay with them. My favorite thing, though, are definitely these mini zinnias. I've said so before, and I will be putting more in the ground next year. I love these. I did plant some of the bigger zinnias as well, but honestly this year I just didn't do that many annual planting. I didn't do nearly as much zinnias as I've done in the past. I didn't put in any dahlias, but I was focused a lot on garden projects and not so much on seed starting. But I think next year I will, because I do miss that annual color. Now, what you do see a lot of, this sort of white fluffy plant that I don't think I'd seen before. So this is something called white snake root, I believe. I'll put its information up on screen. This is a native plant that is going berserk in my garden, probably because I didn't pull it out last year at all. Because again, I'm learning and I'm figuring, if it's native, why not? I might have to edit it a little bit because there's a lot of it, but I kind of like it. Like I said, I didn't do a lot of annuals, so there's not a lot of color going on in the garden right now. And I like this little pop of white, particularly because honestly, I don't have a lot of white in my garden. Then if we take a step back, and I'm trying to get you guys to see this crepe myrtle, a couple of blooms. This one always blooms later than all of the other crepe myrtles. And sorry for the jerkiness, guys. There is a lot of mosquitoes out here and they love to bite me. So if you see a lot of flinching of the camera, it's because I'm trying to run away from a mosquito. Anyway, this one did not perform so well this year. I have no idea why. One of my aunts said the same thing about hers though. So maybe some of them are on a little bit of a cycle. The shrub one here that has more of a purple flower did pretty well though. This one always does pretty well, and it's really big actually. And as I said before, the grape arbor, completely bonkers. I have no idea what I'm doing here, but like I said, this whole area might get reworked. Okay, we are going to briefly take a look at the vegetable garden because this is embarrassing. It gets wild every year, but this is really wild. It is really unkempt. I just did not pay enough attention to this year. A lot of crop failures. It's embarrassing. Okay, let's take a quick look. Okay, you can see as we go back into the jungle. I mean, look at this, guys. I can't even walk back here. I mean, this is crazy. Now, as I've said before, dahlias are not native in my zone 7B, but there's a nice little microclimate here where I planted dahlias in the past and they have really reproduced themselves and they've completely taken over. And while I love the dahlias, I'm pretty sure next year I'm gonna have to take them out because I basically can't grow anything else in here because of the dahlias at this point. There's a whole bunch of just random tomatoes growing all over the place. Lots of cherry tomatoes. The basil did pretty okay, but my Cherokee purple and my black crim did terribly, but that's honestly more my fault than anything else. I honestly did not get them out. I didn't start them early enough, is the truth of the matter. The peppers are looking pretty good. You can see there's some more tomatoes encroaching from God only knows where, but the Scotch bonnets, the cayennes, the jalapenos, even the pimento that we started from seed, all doing pretty well. And you guys can see way over here, I have a few butternut squash that are growing, and I like those, so I'll have to come find them at some point. All right, let's get out of here. This is too embarrassing. This is too much of a jungle, even for me. Okay, guys, that's it for the September garden tour. Please don't come too hard for me for my jungle of a vegetable garden. I'm gonna try and do better next year. I don't know how many more of these I'm gonna do for this year. This is my first year doing garden tours. I'll see what it looks like in October, but at some point, you know, I'm in the Northeast. It's not California, things are not blooming all year, but I'll see, because one thing that is important is making sure your garden has some winter interest. So I'll probably at least have one video about that. But we'll see. Don't know how many more garden tours we'll have for the year 2025. But thanks for coming along with me, guys, on the September garden tour. And as always, I hope you get a chance to get outside and enjoy your garden. Until next time, guys, bye.